Stories from Mike Pinder of the Moody Blues. Now, he left the world of music and now is doing stories for children, and I think that we should be quite interested in hearing what he has to say. And Jan Wall, of course, will be here, and she'll be talking about the movie that is called... in the midst of what the media called the British invasion. Where are they now? Well, one is right here, right now. Unmistakable poetic voice, Mike Pinder. Mike, it's a pleasure to meet you. And also a pleasure to know you're living in Northern California for the last 15 years, which I didn't realize until just a moment ago. That's right. Nice to see you. I'm going to read one little thing here. I just read. It was your quote. Stories and music heard as a child set me on a path to follow. A path of peace, a path of truth, away from tears and fear and sorrow. Now my turn has come in to scatter good seeds in the meadow. How poetic that is. That truly is poetic.
Thank you. It was very difficult to follow, since that is a little poem I wrote for the first children's album, and I've already got the second one out, so I had to come up with another little poem.
I see. Keep making new ones. Yep. There is a certain poeticness about to your music in the 60s, but also to what you've been writing about and so forth. When you did Nights in White Satin, which of course I guess is your biggest and most well-known number.
It became the signature tune after, even though we had a big one with Go Now originally in '64. Yeah.
What about that first line? Can you do that first line for us?
Breathe deep the gathering gloom, watch lights fade from every room. Bedsitter people look back and lament another day's useless energy spent, and so on.
And so on and so on. You know, it strikes me, not only reading that and hearing you say that, but the quality of music today. There's not much poetry in music today.
This is true, but everything seems to be cyclic, and I'm thinking that, you know, I was born in World War II. I've seen the best and the worst of that humanity has to offer. Yeah. And I think, you know, when there's nowhere else to go, it's always up.
Yeah, it's going to make it, the cycles will change, yes. You know. And now, when did you first get started, and when did you first come to America?
Got started with the band, I started the band with Ray Thomas in 1964. First hit record was 6 months later, which was Go Now. Came to America in 1974, and I've been here ever since.
Yeah. Where did the name come from?
It came from the fact that we had a local brewery called M&B, and they owned all of the big pubs and the dance halls, and we were trying to get in with them and get a few £100 from them. So we thought, what about if we named this new band we're putting together something to do with their initials? So we were playing a lot of blues, so that was easy. We got the blues for the bin. And I was affected by a Duke Ellington piece of music when I was a kid called Mood Indigo.
Oh, sure.
And I was interested in the mood-changing effects of music too, so since early childhood. So that really is how it came, Moody Blues.
Were a lot of the musicians from England influenced by Americans?
Very
American
much so.
Music, early American music, black
yes,
musicians
very much
in
so.
particular?
Exactly. Yeah. I have a theory of my own to answer this question. I think that what happened to us in World War II in England, for instance, we were eating, you know, dry bread and anything we could find to put on it, or catch to put on it, and, you know, use clothes, use shoes, rationing, all those kind of hardships. I used to sleep next door with the people next door, and they would sleep with us another night to cut down the chance of being bombed by 50%. There was hardships there, very compressed, and I related that to the kind of hardships that black Americans and Native Americans also have experienced over the last couple of years, and I saw the affinity that English musicians were feeling out of that era, were feeling for, you know, black American music.
How did you take that kind of influence into storytelling? What was the transition from that music and writing music into storytelling?
It wasn't so much a transition from the music, but more of what had happened in my life. I realized that what happened to me as a child, what I was exposed to was Danny Kaye, Burl Ives, Jimmy Durante. And when I was 4 or 5 years old, I heard a song on the BBC by Jimmy Durante called The Lost Chord, written by Sullivan of Gilbert and Sullivan. That stuck with me like a sticker on a woolen sock, as did the Mood Indigo name. And so 22 years later, I coerced my bandmates to make an album called In Search of the Lost Chord.
You know, the transition from Moody Blues to Jimmy Durante is a real stretch. I mean, the fact that there is a connection between that is absolutely amazing to me. Is it because he had heart? Is it because the music had heart, had soul, had something to say?
I really feel that people like those guys were passing little nuggets of wisdom from their generation to mine, and I'm trying to do the same thing now.
Okay, now Old Turtle. Tell me a little bit about that. We're going to listen to a piece of that.
Old Turtle, Douglas Wood story. All of these stories are picture books that you can go out and buy in a bookstore. My wife and I we discovered while we were out on a trip that one of the books, and it seemed like a great idea.
Okay, let's listen to a little piece of it right now.
Once, long, long ago, yet somehow not so very long, when all the animals and rocks and winds and waters and trees and birds and fish and all the beings of the world could speak and understand one another, there began...
You must get great satisfaction out of this.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, more than the music, more now than before?
No, I really had a sense of doing something when I had the band.
It's a great band, by the way. I don't know if we've said that yet this morning, but that's a great band.
We had a wonderful time, a tenure, you know.
Yeah, I'm glad
and I'm very proud of what I did with the band, and I'm very proud of what I'm doing now. I felt we were fulfilling a need in the 60s and 70s, and I feel that I'm trying to do the same thing now for our children.
Yeah, it sounds absolutely beautiful. Here's where you can meet Mike. It's at Borders, I believe, at Borders Books and Music in Milpitas tomorrow at 2 p.m. There it is right there at Milpitas. That's a huge mall over there. And area code 408-934-1180 if you're interested. And Sunday at 1 p.m. in Emeryville, area code 510-654-1633. And that's where you can meet Mike Pinder and hear more of his stories. It's a pleasure to meet you. It's also nice to know you're living in Northern California.
Yes, it's a wonderful place to be.
Okay, great.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, we'll be back in just a couple of minutes. And do you like movies?
Yes.
Well, Jan Wall, our expert, will be back here in just a couple of minutes. Stay tuned.